G'day guys, Steve with Broken Sprocket. In this video, I'm going to introduce my new to me 2001 Suzuki RM125. So, let's get started. This is a 2001 Suzuki RM125. Now, other viewers may remember I built a 2003 model Suzuki RM125. That bike was built from the ground up and I did a really nice job in my opinion, and the bike looked absolutely fantastic when finished. The problem I had was it looked too good that I didn't want to ride it, so I sold the bike unridden in perfect order because I just didn't want to ride that bike. So this bike here I'm going to ride. Now that doesn't mean I don't have things to fix and maintenance and stuff like that to do, because as always, a 24-year-old bike, they always have some things that need attention, and this bike here is no exception. A quick look over the bike, and the bike isn't in too bad condition. The previous owner said it had recently had an engine rebuild and he hadn't ridden the bike at all because he had a different bike that he preferred to ride, and he just got sick of looking at this bike in his garage, so he decided to sell it. And it was for a fairly good price, and I thought this is pretty good value, so I may buy it. The plastics look relatively original and it still has the original seat on it. The material on the seat is starting to get not brittle but definitely firm, so for a 23-year-old seat it's not in too bad nick and there are no tears in it. There is a slight bit of stainage on the rear of the seat cover. The bike came with brand new tyres front and rear, although the tyres look as though they were made in 2016, so they have been on there for quite some time and they still relatively rubbery, but they are a little bit firm compared to a brand new one. The left side radiator is still the standard Suzuki one, and when I purchased it, it had none of these radiator covers on it, but fortunately for me, the radiator covers on a DRZ 400 fit perfectly into an RM125. The right hand side radiator is an aftermarket radiator, so it's obviously needed to be replaced one stage, possibly fallen on the radiator and damaged it. When I purchased the bike, I noticed there was oil and stuff around the fork seals, so obviously I knew that I had to rebuild the forks or put new oil seals in them. What I didn't realise was there was actually no oil in the forks at all. It had leaked out on both forks. When I went for a quick lap around the backyard, I put the front brakes on, the front wheel dove in, hit the guard, and that's where these forks stayed. The wheel was compressed up into the guard and that wasn't coming back. So I had to yank on the wheel, yank on the handlebars, and eventually I got it to pop back down. But that wasn't the only issue with the forks. Not only did the fork seals need replacing, they had no oils in them. All of this sticker here, I put those on because all the anodizing has gone terrible. And the worst part here is this top section of the fork, especially on this left-hand side fork. The anodizing has gone, but it's also raising up on the aluminium. It's all becoming deformed, so I think I will definitely need to replace these forks with some new forks because these ones here are in quite bad condition. The front brake line will probably need replacing too. I've added a bit of tape here because it was getting quite ratted around this edge here, especially on this outer cover. And when you get to the bottom of the brake line, it's a bit crudted here where it's had some impacts, and there should actually be a plastic cover that goes around this section here to protect this brake line, but the bike doesn't have that piece. The wheels seem quite good on the bike. They don't wobble about or anything like that. The wheel bearings seem quite good, so the whole wheel and stuff like that all seems quite good on this bike. The rear wheel is also pretty good. It feels good as well. The expansion chamber is in pretty good condition. Hasn't got any dents or anything like that in it. It looks good all the way around. I did replace the O-ring and the gasket inside here because it was leaking pretty badly when I purchased it, and it actually had nothing in there at all, no O-ring and no gasket. The joiner gasket between the expansion chamber and the actual muffler will need to be replaced because it's pretty bad condition and also leaks. I had to replace a couple of bolts. There was a bolt missing here and these chain tensioner bolts, they were all broken and not very good condition, so luckily I had some new ones, so I replaced both of those. This disc cover is broken, so that will be needed to be replaced or just not have it at all. The brakes are fairly good, there's no real wear marks on these discs. They did have a little bit of rust on it because the bike had been sitting for many years. The owner had it basically from brand new, but he claims he hasn't ridden it for maybe 10 or so years, so it's sort of just sat there. I think that's why some of the erosion and stuff like that's on the bike. Back wheel is good. There's no movement in the bearings or anything like that. It spins square. It doesn't seem to be out of alignment or anything like that. Had a brand new tyre on it. Again, the brand new tyre is about 8 years old, but it had a brand new tyre on it. The rear wheel does have this tiny little kicker in it. I reckon I could even repair that when I change the tyre or something like that. It's only on one side, the other side doesn't have it, so there has been a small impact here on the rim, but the rim does spin good. It's not buckled or anything like that, and it runs true, so nothing too big to worry about. The swing arm is in good condition. It doesn't have any real movement in it. It has that movement, but that's supposed to be there. All these bearings feel good in that, but I will pull it apart in a later date and redo the whole lot of this so that I know they're good, because replacing all of these swing arm bearings and all of these linkage bearings, they can become quite expensive, so I will strip it down and just make sure all of that is fresh, good, clean, and all of that kind of stuff, so to preserve the what I have without having to spend masses of money. The engine cover on this side here, it did have a crack in it along here, so what's on here now is just a little bit of JB weld, and that seems to be holding up relatively well, and that will stop that from leaking or getting dust or anything into that area. The chain and sprockets are in pretty good condition. They've got very minimal wear on them, and it looks like they've been adjusted correctly because they're not wearing unevenly or anything like that, so there's still quite a bit of usage to be had in these chain and sprockets. I've noticed that the rubber on this section here of the shock absorber is pretty decayed and that, but the shock absorber doesn't seem to be leaking any oil or anything like that, so I'm not going to be too worried about that. That's more or less kind of like a bump stop kind of rubber, and I'm not that worried about that. It's not like I'm going to be doing massive jumps and bottoming out the suspension. The actual frame of the bike is in quite good condition, although I have noticed a very small dent in the lower section here. Nothing to be overly worried about. And this section of the frame right here has got a scratch in it and a very minor dent, but again, it's nothing to be too concerned about. The bike holds good compression, and when we had a ride on it, it does seem to go quite well. So that's just a quick rundown on the Suzuki RM125. It does have a few issues that need to be addressed, and we will get to those and make some videos on things that I repair and stuff like that. But overall, the bike is quite good. It's very fun to ride, and there's just something about these old two-stroke dirt bikes, especially Japanese ones. Even though I do prefer to ride a four-stroke, there's just something about these old two-strokes that really grab you, and they're just really something special. So hopefully we can have some good videos with this bike, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. It does have a few additions, and this here is my new to me need to be addressed, and we will get that.